allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Ms. Solero.
I have not heard from Ms. Shanafelt. Mr. Koser?
Here.
Mr. Curry?
Here.
Mr. Frosco?
Here.
Mr. Steigel?
Here.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Rose?
Here. Can I get a motion for approval of prior minutes?
So moved. Second.
February 26, 2024. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0, Mr. Lewis. Special reports, seeing none. Audience comments limited to 5 minutes for non-agenda items unless extended by council. Anyone like to say anything that's not on the agenda? Seeing none. Unfinished business, none. New business. Request by Crossing Homeowners Association to discuss maintenance of their existing stormwater management facility. Mr. Lowe.
Yes.
So the record should reflect that
Ms. Shanafelt?
just got here. 7:31.
The administrative assistant doing the minutes would have noted that. You have a request tonight from the Crossing Homeowners Association to discuss the maintenance of an existing stormwater management facility. You know, under Pennsylvania state law, Peters Township is responsible for ensuring both the publicly owned and privately owned stormwater management facilities are maintained so that they function as designed. For privately owned storm water management facilities, and that's what this facility is, the township's responsibility is to do periodic inspections to determine if the stormwater management facilities are maintained to function as they were designed. Most often, if there is a problem, it involves the need to remove silt and debris from the stormwater management facility. So in this particular case, what you're looking at, the stormwater management facility consists of a series of oversized concrete pipes. They're shown there in blue, and then these are then connected onto a concrete vault that is at the end of it. When an inspection was done of this facility, it was determined that, and this was back in November, that silt in all three of these locations has accumulated to a point where they need to be cleaned out. And so the Homeowners Association has been notified of the need to do that. They asked for the opportunity to come to speak to you concerning that effort.
Now, Paul, was there a reason when the plan was originally done that these were kept private?
And I don't know this for a fact, but what we normally find when you have these type of facilities, the township has a preference not to have tanks, and the reason why developers prefer the tanks is that it doesn't use up property that can be developed and have homes on it. So the township stays away from tanks as much as we can.
So the tanks would have been put in what, in lieu of a detention pond or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah. And see, and the thing is, with the detention ponds, they never ever completely fail because the pond needs to be maintained. It needs to be cleaned out. The problem with tanks in the long run is at some point in time they will fail, and they'll fail in such a way that they have to be excavated and placed back in, and that's something that's a liability the township's never been willing to take on.
Was there a problem, or was this just a routine investigation?
This we have a responsibility, particularly with regard to compliance with MS4 regulations, to inspect these tanks to make sure that they work. This was part of a periodic inspection, and like I said, the tanks have silt in them, which need to be pumped out.
Now, would the property owners have had any way of knowing when they bought a house in the development that these tanks were there? Do we require that as a note on the plan or anything like that?
No, there wouldn't be a note on the plan. Yeah, go for it.
My name's Rich Frank. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association. With me tonight also is Tom Drake. He's the treasurer.
Mr. Frank, before you sit down, you need to give me your name and address on that form, so that way the lady who
He's not
will
going
be
to
doing
sit
the
down
minutes.
for yet. He hasn't said anything.
Okay. When I moved in 7 years ago, there was no such disclosure made or mentioned. They just said there was a monthly fee, and the monthly fee would cover landscaping and exterior maintenance and a few other things. And most people bought in thinking, well, that's good exchange. No, now I don't have to cut my own grass, and we'll pay for a variety of things. It's our understanding, subsequently, after we received this letter, and I spoke extensively to a gentleman who was the president of Eddie Land, who developed that whole area. Actually, the letter was sent to him mistakenly, not realizing that he had left the association. He once owned 3 units in our association. He now owns none. He lives on Sheriff's Court, but he was the president of Eddie Land at the time. And his family and he also owned Eddie Homes, who developed all the homes in that area. And just as was discussed a moment ago, a key was that there's very little flat property in the development. And as such, they would have had to give up the possibility of additional units. Now, that was profit for Eddie Land and Eddie Homes, not the people who moved there. It helped spread a little bit of the cost out over a few more people. But it also provided for all these years, some 25 odd years, extra tax revenues to the township, because more units means more taxes. Now, I had a couple bullet points, and we don't have to put, okay. We acknowledge that was done. We acknowledge and understand why, the developer did it. But for the reasons that we've now adequately beat around here in the last couple of minutes, they decided to put the underground tanks in. Now, no one living in the crossings gets a tax break because we're maintaining our own stormwater management system. We're paying the same millage and the same tax on the assessed value of our homes as every other resident in the township. And I don't know when there was an agreement made a number of years back when the development was new that the township would take over maintenance and management of the streets, just the public streets. There are 3 public streets in the area: Crossbow, Crosswinds that goes up behind the Aldi's, and then also part of Sheriff's Court, which didn't used to exist, where a number of our units were placed. That was a wonderful agreement because the township agreed to take care of the streets and maintain them, and they do the snow plowing and everything. The rest of them we maintain, we resurface, we plow. They're all on us. But when that agreement was made, it was explicit that the stormwater tanks would be the responsibility of the association, no argument. But none of our residents are getting a tax break from anybody else in the borough because we are maintaining our own. Secondly, the streets debris, the leaves, the sand from winter storm treatment, the salt, the mud from the adjoining community that's been put on top of the hill behind us, all that goes through our stormwater tanks. So here we have about a third of Sheriff's Court, all of Crossbow Court from the top of the hill down to Crosswinds, and all of Crosswinds from our clubhouse all the way down to the swimming club, are all flowing through our facilities, through that big square one at the end of the street at the bottom of the hill. And it seems to us that perhaps it's fair that we should ask for some sharing. Now, we did get quotes. After the letter was delivered, we started getting quotes from one company called Jace, who the township has dealt with. We've also asked for quotes from 3 other companies that Paul was kind enough and Mark was kind enough to give us to go out and get more quotes. We're talking $31,000 to do the clean out. Well, for 66 units, that's a lot of money, and we thought we could at least bring to your attention the fact that there are somewhat extenuating circumstances. We're handling all the street debris and so forth. It's ending up in our system. B, you're getting more, the township, we all in the township are getting the benefit of more units in there and more tax revenue flowing into the township because we did not put in surface units. And we're simply asking for some consideration of some percentage. I threw 50% in this as a starting point for conversation. I know technically and legally we have no, right to ask for it. But these things I've just mentioned, I think, are somewhat beyond what anybody, certainly in the association, no one living there today ever had any thoughts that we were going to have to pay these bills and maintain these conduits and this underground vault. We should have done better. We should have been more responsible and done more due diligence when we bought in. I've learned a lot being there, and I've learned a lot being the president of the HOA over the past several years. And I would give a lot of advice to people who are thinking about moving into a condo in the future to not do what all of us did, and that's not get into the detail. And this is detail. So all we are asking respectfully is some consideration perhaps of sharing in the cost to resolve the problem and clean out these areas. And we would either like to discuss or hear your thoughts on that.
So the one thing that I would caution council is that there are in town, we estimate, at least 100 privately owned underground storm sewer tanks. The vast majority of those are on private property and are commercial buildings. But there are at least 12 underground tanks owned and maintained by homeowners association. And in the manager's report, a couple of those are listed: Fife's Farm, Venetia Point, Colony Woods, Williamsburg Common, Brookwood Place, Tomahawk Plain of Lots. And my only point to you is that whatever it is you decide, you should be prepared for that request coming from others as well.
Paul, can I ask a question about that?
Mm-hmm.
Do they also have publicly maintained streets, debris, and water flowing through their systems?
I would say the bulk of them, yes.
That's the reason we listed those
Yeah.
in particular.
And
Off the
they
top of my
also-
head, I thought
Yeah.
those are another half dozen that take road water into the tanks.
I have a few questions. When's the last time they were cleaned?
Never.
Yeah, I don't think
And
ever.
then in the budget, when we set up HOAs normally, there's a line item. When you guys got that from the developer, was all, should
We
be
knew we-
$10 a month or something going towards this?
We thought that we had to inspect them. And we had an inspection done about 2.5 years ago by Chase, who was one of the contractors we've asked to bid. They were $31,000. And at the time, they said, you're in good shape. You should inspect every 5 years. So let us know when you want us to come back. And we thought, well, we're in good shape. We didn't think we needed to. The only surface water management we do is when we have runoff and need to put a sump in somebody's yard or, redirect it out to the street or whatever is appropriate for a problem that's existing. And we do shoulder that, and it's a minor amount. Nowhere in the budgets for the HOA, and Tom, jump in here, you're the treasurer, we have no line item and have never had a line item since our time there, or to our knowledge, going back 25 years, has there ever been a line item for cleaning out the subsurface stormwater retention tanks? And that's a problem. We're going to have to now live and learn, obviously.
There is a line, there has been a line item, but it's been.
You're going to have to do me a favor. You have to come up to the microphone. They won't hear.
All right. Oh, you have me on here already. Okay. So, yeah, there is a line item, but it's just for those little small jobs where there's water pooling in somebody's yard, and that's what we call storm
Surface water.
Yeah. So there hasn't been a.
As you know, we have a very steep hillside, and we've put $100,000 over the past 10 years into remediation problems due to pyrite and sliding of the hill, rebuilding retention walls, building at the bottom of the hill ways to catch the water and divert it into the proper storm system. Yes, we've spent money like that over time. It's always been handled out of our reserve, and it's not that we don't spend money on surface water management. We just didn't anticipate these subsurface stormwater retention pipes as part of it.
Thank you.
And you said that the developer lives in your neighborhood and used to be the president?
He does not live in, he's not a member of our condominium. He has a home on Sheriff's Court. Ed Martz has a home on Sheriff's Court. And he's the one that advised us of the flows and everything. Before the letter ever came, we knew that there was surface water from these streets going through our system. And we knew there was a system because we have pits that go down to the systems, and we're aware of them. And we had them inspected 2 or 3 years
He had no
ago.
recollection of being responsible for this?
He said he had received letters over the years and that he never took action on them. Now, this was conversation with me within the last 6 months. He's been gone for a couple of years now from the board. He just said when he was advised, he thought, well, it'll take a long time before those fill up. We don't need to do it yet.
Paul, I have a couple of questions. I don't know if you can answer them, maybe Mark can. Well, you should be able to answer the first question. Have we ever done this for tanks in any other plan?
Have we ever cleaned out a tank? No.
Okay. And this system has been in place.
Can I just add, the one thing that we have offered the association is that when people come in to do this kind of work, water's always a problem because you have to, and that's something we can help them with. You have to dispose of the silt somewhere, and that's someplace that we can actually help them with.
And we appreciate that very much.
And one of the other things is, and I realize you had indicated that $30-some thousand, but I thought there were other quotes.
There was one other quote for $13,500, but it wasn't a firm quote. It was a ballpark estimate, and they still have to quote. And the other two have not come back yet. We're hoping that they come in at a lower figure. We're not asking for an amount of money tonight. We're just asking for a concept, if there's any chance that we can do any sharing on this, given the circumstances.
Paul, what's the longevity of these tanks, and how long have they been in there?
The square one at the bottom right was only put in about 7 years ago. I lived in the neighborhood when it was finished, and that's where everything collects.
That's the one closest to
The other
Goldfish.
two I have to defer to Mark. He would be much better qualified to answer.
Well, that has-built drawings from the 90s, so all of those tanks, including the square one, have been in for quite some time.
The square one didn't go in until, I watched the being built from my back porch. It was just, no, there may have been a pit there.
It's on the drawing.
It's on the drawing. It may have been added later, or maybe that was intended when the drawing was put in.
It may not have gone in until the units.
Until all the units were finished.
But Frank, what they are reinforced concrete pipe. And so they should be there for a considerable length of time. There will be a time when they need to be replaced, though.
Not in our lifetime.
Yeah,
I mean,
certainly not in my
reinforced concrete.
And
Speak for yourself, guys.
Paul, to your point, and we certainly appreciate the offer of the township to provide water and a disposal site. That's very much appreciated. We went back to Jace and we said, now with that in hand, what will you do with your quote for they did give us a firm quote of $31,000 and change. They said, nothing. It's not worth anything to us. So I was shocked, and that response came yesterday. So hopefully the others will be lower, and hopefully we'll get a better rate. But we thought nothing ventured, nothing gained. Would come present our case and let council decide what you think is appropriate.
Any other questions? Is this something we need to take action on this evening, Paul?
You don't necessarily have to take action on this evening, but at some point in time, you will have to take action on it. The one thing that might make sense is they are getting additional quotes, and you'll get some idea of what that's.
When we get all the quotes, we can certainly give them to Paul, and he can distribute them.
Yeah, that sounds appropriate.
Okay.
We appreciate your request. We'll get the additional quotes and then talk amongst ourselves and come back with some type of decision for you.
Thank you.
I have one question as well.
Yes, sir.
Based on the inspection, how long, obviously it couldn't have been done over the winter time, but how long this may take?
We're going to work with you. That's not going to be the problem. As long as we're moving forward and everyone realizes something has to be done there, that's not going to be the
The
issue.
initial letter said you have to have it done in 6 months, but Paul's kind enough to say the door's open on that.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Okay, moving on. Request by Victor Wetzel Associates to discuss proposed development along Valley Brook Road.
Good evening. My name is Mike Wetzel from Victor Wetzel Associates. Also have Tom Robinson, Jill Estes, and then also Paul Scarmazzi with Scarmazzi Homes. And we're here to discuss the Valley Brook Road property that most of you are familiar with in regard to past approvals with Tom's property in regard to Valley Brook Road located in through here, where we had an approved dessert shop located on the site located in through here, and also an approved medical office building. The dessert shop was approved back in 2019, and the medical office building was approved back in 2020. Really what we have is a situation where the family trust has had an issue trying to find a person to be able to look at and maintain the dessert shop in that type of avenue with that. And then secondly, also the medical office use not at all being feasible, nobody suiting to come in through here. In fact, even a year ago, we submitted a new site plan where we looked at doing a pizza shop at that location where the dessert shop is. But the plan in front of you, and maybe the application that we sent to the township a couple of weeks ago, was the use of a 22-unit townhome development plan on this site through there. And Paul, actually, if you can go back one slide. In regard to the overall site within the plan, we have what's considered here highlighted in yellow as parcel 2. That is the parcel that's actually owned by Peters Township, but there's a lease with Mr. Robinson to maintain that property, and where we also were having the dessert shop. There's an existing above ground detention facility located right along and through here, which serves the West Edgewood units, and through here there's a storm line that comes through here and then goes back down to Brush Creek. Also kind of a relationship of some of the surrounding areas.
But before you go on, the one thing I want to be clear, because it's mislabeled on the drawing, the lease is not for 100 years. The lease is for 25 years, and there are 5 years extensions. And
that's associated with that property here. Mr. Robinson also owns lot number 2, which is 6.77 acres of the site area. And then back when we did look at the lease and the design of the dessert shop in through here, this was lot number 1, which is about 2.4 acres that Mr. Robinson donated to Peters Township in regard to future stormwater use within that property. So as you know, driving back and forth along Valley Brook Road, Mr. Robinson has been doing the site filling that was taken into account back in 2020 through an approved grading permit on the site. So you can go to the next plan. So because of what Mr. Robinson's been trying to do and trying to get a tenant for the dessert shop as well as the office medical office building and the challenges that have come across that, one item that we've looked at is to do a 22-unit townhome development within the site. So with this concept that we just wanted to be able to discuss with you is doing as I said, a 22-unit townhome. Once again, this is the township-owned parcel right along through here where the lease is located, and this is the rest of the property through this section. We'd be coming in off of Valley Brook Road at the same location where we had approved site distances before, and what we'd be able to do is to have a right in, right out over and through here, so there'll be a full two-way out. Overall, within that plan through that section, and unfortunately we didn't have the approved dessert shop on these particular slides, but we would have 10 units located here on the township lease property section, and then 12 units on Mr. Robinson's property through this section. As we come along and through here, there'd be the turnaround area and parking associated with this. Overall, what we'd be doing is providing development where all the roads would be private within the plan. So there will not be any township maintenance roadways within the development. Very similar to what we just had with Cameron Estates that was approved about a year ago through council. And what we'd be doing is providing a private road, parking area, CBU location, and through here, additional visitor parking, and then the townhome units that would be developed by Scarmazy Homes associated with the plan.
And how would the stormwater management be handled on this one?
And that's what we'll go through that, but what we'd like to be able to do is, once again, the existing stormwater management is located through here. We would be going through an underground detention facility within this site, very similar to what was done under the medical office building. We'd have a underground detention facility located through here and another one located through here. This underground area would be designed to accommodate all the water from West Edgewood Drive through this section, as well as what would be needed for stormwater management for the design in through here. As well as I mentioned, we'd have another stormwater design facility within the plan at that location of the site. And one of the ideas that we want to discuss in regard to the concept is we know we have a 25-year lease with 5-year increments associated with that. We feel that the lease that's there today really doesn't fit for the townhomes, and we'd like to be able to discuss with council about really kind of seeing about putting this particular parcel up for sale. Because once again, the lease doesn't work in regard to townhomes, and you really can't sell the townhome units on a lease of 25 years. So what we'd like to be able to do is discuss with council about actually looking at placing that 1.6 acre parcel up for sale. It'd have to go up for a bid process because it's a township-owned parcel, but we would be looking at doing that through a avenue that even with the sale of that property, anybody that purchases that has the lease requirements associated with the plan. Paul, I'm not sure if you can go to the next slide. And this kind of just shows the overall site area. We also have the existing Brookwood residential development, all single family along and through here, all private roads associated with this plan. And you can see where we have the development area that's taking place for the Brook Road site. All the area that's kind of in the yellow would be put into open space and be protected in regard to no additional development within that area. But for us to be able to continue to move forward with a land development application, we wanted to review with the council in regard to our solutions in regard to actually putting the 1.6 acre parcel up for sale, and we'd be able to work with the township staff, the township solicitor, as well as council in regard to moving forward with the site development and sale of that property.
So the intention is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is this is going to be a condominium development. That's why the private streets
Correct.
Can stay private. The one thing that I think is a caution is that you're going to have underground tanks that are going to be doing stormwater maintenance for the area on the other side of Brook Road. And so, again, many years down the road, but I can understand how the condominium association may have problems at some future date maintaining a stormwater management facility that isn't related to their development.
And discussion what you had in regard to the plan previously, that was a plan back in the 90s, I believe that was done. Once again, with the changes in regard to homeowners association and the requirement documents, all that will be documented in the sales of any of these units. So they'll well know that they'll be part of the requirement as far as the maintenance requirement for future within this site. Within the township, we've also Brookwood Place for Marty Gillespie. That particular townhome development was 100% underground stormwater detention facility. Most of those were done under the private driveway scenarios as well as in the central common open space. Mr. Robinson has done his Bower Hill School. That was a plan that utilized all underground tanks within that plan. So it's a very similar process, familiar process that Mr. Robinson has done in the past. And really, we don't use the piping system that's there today in regard to large oversized pipes. They're more better designed facilities that don't need to be as large, don't need to be as deep, and have a much longer 100-year plus lifespans associated with them. So,
Paul, one thing he said relative to Mallard, didn't that community turn that road back over to the township?
The difference is the nature of the ownership here. What they're talking about is ownership where all of the land is owned by the condominium association. So there would be no way to be able to turn it back to the township. One of the lessons we learned from Mallard Drive was that private roads need to be placed in right-of-ways that are the same dimensional requirements as a township road. But with this condominium association, that what this really turns out to be is not so much a road, it actually turns out to be more of a driveway that is owned by the condominium association.
Yeah, once again, very similar to the Cameron Estates that was just approved a year ago. It's all private drives associated with that. With this development, what we're going to be having is a low-maintenance neighborhood associated with this plan. So there'll be no maintenance associated with lawn care, grass cutting, leaf removal, snow removal, exterior work in regard to the sidewalks and roads in regard to, once again, snow plowing. So this will be 100% homeowners association maintained property where the township won't be coming in at all.
Well, this type of use would certainly generate less traffic than what's been contemplated there before with the different restaurants and office buildings and all that. But you guys picked a heck of a night to come in and to be right after the story we just heard about underground storage tanks,
And once again, that's some of the problems that you have from developments 50 years ago, or in this case, I'm sorry, 30 some odd years ago, with plans like that. Once again, documentation has taken place with homeowners association as well as stormwater managements have changed considerably since the 90s. Back in the 90s, we used to find a drainage way, put a dam across it, call it a stormwater detention facility, and call it a day. There's a lot new regulations that have taken place since then. And once again, this is something that's not new in regard to a concept or even a use. We've approved several plans within the township that has used this type of idea.
I wouldn't go as far as several. I will grant you that there have been things approved, and again, the township just does not prefer tanks for public ownership, but what you're talking about is private ownership.
It'll be 100% privately owned.
I guess my concern is what happens if someday down the road, the condo association runs out of money. It's going to come back on us then, won't it? Or come back on whoever's sitting in our seats if that ever were to happen.
Well, ultimately, the township is responsible for the management of stormwater. When all else fails, it's the township that DP's coming after if you have a failure of your stormwater systems.
And that's whether it's a
public,
a townhome development that's all public, or even a land development.
Yeah.
So it's just not just residential;
Yes.
It's also land development work as well.
Ultimately, it's ours.
And our goal
we
is
had to do that, Mr. Lauer. Let's under Mr. Kozer's hypothetical, and for some reason we had to foot the bill for that. Would we then obtain a lien on all of the property because it's all one, owned by the condominium association?
I would think so.
John Smith question.
I think you'd get I think the only thing you could get a lien on would be the common areas, right?
At best, if they're not already, well, I guess they'd be in the HOA. But
Yeah.
I think, to answer your question, Frank, I don't think that we can. We typically don't, even when we do maintenance on the detention facilities around here, we don't go after, even before we accepted them. Weren't we doing some work, or do we always have to take them in the first part? On the ponds?
The takeover of pond, we require that it be restored to its design.
Yeah, and ultimately, when we take those over, if that's, whether we take something like this over, but I don't see how you can lien something, just like if somebody doesn't pay money, under Planned Communities Act, their units could be subject to lien, if they don't pay. I've seen that happen, but I can't imagine the township enforcing that type of expenditure against the homeowners there, going after their parcels, other than, like you said, maybe the common area. But I think, we're putting the cart before the horse here. Lost in all this is that's township property. And township, number one, before we did this lease, those of you who are on the board may remember, that's open space for the township. And ultimately, we did a lease for a concession stand for a coffee shop to be placed there for that limited purpose. We did, remember, the request for proposal, and that's where this is. I'm not sure we would want or be able to, or even want to go down that road to even sell that open space away. So I think this is.
I don't think you can sell open space.
Well, it was dedicated to. That's why I asked Mark to remind me. I knew it was open space, and I know I went back and looked. I did an opinion letter back in 2018 as to whether we'd have to get court approval on dedicated property, to even sell that. But I don't know there was an appetite for it, because we do get requests sometimes from residents, can you sell us a piece of this township property? We typically say no.
Well, I remember when your predecessor was here, we had an issue about an easement someplace, and we had, he told us that you couldn't do it.
See, I think you can if you get the consent of everybody who's in the plan that the open space is a part of.
Well, I'm saying before,
how big is that plan?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. But
yeah, we'd have to sell. We'd have to put it out for bid to say we want to sell this parcel.
Right, but I don't think you could sell it in the first place unless you had everybody in the plan that the open space is a part of signing off on it.
The plan above.
Right.
Well, I think even beyond that, in the to look back at mine.
And I guess the question would be is, I'm not sure if that was really dedicated as an open space parcel, but it was dedicated as a stormwater management parcel.
I think at least...
And that's the big difference associated with
It
that.
could be, yeah. And then when I cited back to there's a Pennsylvania Donated or Deducted Property Act, and under that act, that you can't sell that land unless you get approval. Now, again, depending on what dedicated means by the Orphans Court, as to whether we would even want to take that land off township rules. So we wrestled with this in 2018, and I think we ultimately agreed to just do the lease. But
and I think that was the reason, because I think we came to the conclusion that there was no way we could sell it.
well, I know we've turned people down in the past, to Mr. Arcuri's point, that we can't really sell that property. There are reasons why the township can, and I don't know that this is one of them, when it's not really, we just take control of it from that other subdivision.
I remember swapping a piece of property.
They gave us a piece of property in exchange.
I meant in the past where I think somebody had built a pool and it
Yeah, we've
encroached
done
like
that.
on open space, so
2-1
they gave us some other portion of their land and we just, I don't
We
know,
took a triangle here.
in a triangle there. And I don't know how kosher that was, but it seemed like the right thing to do because there was no way that was being moved.
We did get everyone to sign on that, I believe. But
That was a while ago.
so I'm not even sure if everybody in that plan signed off that we still would be obligated or want to sell that piece of property.
And really, our reason here today is to, A, just begin discussion in regard to this project, especially as the sale of the property. And we'd like to be able to have continued discussions, not only with Mr. Robinson's attorney, but also the township solicitor, to see if this is feasible.
Well, we certainly appreciate what Mr. Robinson has done in filling that ravine in down there. It certainly looks a lot nicer than it did before. I mean, like I said before, I think this is probably the nicest concept that Mr. Robinson has brought forth for that property. But I think, like John said, I don't think we have the authority, at least in my recollection, I don't think we have the authority to sell it, even if we wanted to.
Yeah, and that's where I think we want to be able to have continued discussion, in some cases behind the scenes with both staff and the solicitor, and that we can then come back in front of the board. Yeah, as you say, this plan, it provides considerably less impervious paving associated with the plan. You know, it provides the residential type quality that's within the corridor, and we feel it's becoming a good option, but once again, we had to start this discussion point.
Yeah, and ultimately, even if we were down the road where the township wanted to sell it, they couldn't sell it with this in mind because it'd be open to the whole public to buy it. And
Oh,
so
correct. There'd be
This
still
couldn't be, but
requirements.
this couldn't be the catalyst for their appetite to sell the property. They would want to have to sell the property independently because what if somebody else buys? What are they going to do?
Oh, correct. And that's how we want to be able to set it up, because we know it has to be a fair share in regard to a purchase. Anybody can put a bid on it. And
Well, right, I'm just saying, but this plan can't be the reason they want to sell it in the hopes you get it, and then somebody else buys it for some other reason. They can't control that.
Of course, anyone else that buys it would buy it subject to the lease.
correct. Yes.
And that lease
that's
does
it.
require payment to the township of gross, percentage of gross proceeds.
All right, so someone
I don't
else-
know if you could do that though, because wouldn't isn't the lease that's on the sign?
I don't remember what the lease says. It's not assignable on Mr. Robinson's part, I think.
No, I
is
think it
assignable on our
can
part.
be, I have it here.
Because you're right, somebody else could buy it, put a donut shop there, and then, you know, we'd be getting a percentage of the profits then.
It might not have an entrance.
Yeah, but that's
have to give approval.
but unfortunately, the exhibits we provided earlier showed the approved plan, but
Right.
technically they don't have a way to get access to the site, because any access that occur really has to occur at that location just because of the grades that take place in through here. And really what was happening is that dessert shop was kind of right in between that line. It becomes a non-usable piece of property for developer X, but a very usable property when you look at Mr. Robinson's overall piece.
Hey, Mike, was there any thoughts about doing a townhouse project without the township property? Like, what's the performa look like?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, what you have is what you see off to the side over through here.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Rentz, you have a question?
Yeah, I just hate to sound like a broken record here. But again, we're taking a piece of property, it was being developed under the understanding that we would have an asset to the community of a dessert bar, connection to the Montour Trail, parking for the Montour Trail. Now we're jamming in 22 townhouses, high-density housing again, putting more strain on our schools, more strain on our roadways, on our sewers, on everything. It just seems like a bait and switch. All the development to this point has been to make an asset to the community. Now we're just jamming in more housing. I really think that we ought to rethink this and go back to the original thoughts here. That's all.
Appreciate the comment.
Well, and I realized quite quickly that, the people that remembered the coffee shop, then I guess it was called the dessert shop.
Dessert shop, yes.
And then there was a
concession stand in noise.
Well, yes.
anyway, and then ultimately a pizza. The public very much has been aware of this proposed development along the trail.
Yeah.
There will be other people that would be discouraged.
I don't think we're going to come to any consensus tonight on this. I appreciate you.
We agree.
Bringing this to our attention. I mean, there's going to be lots of discussion in the background on this, especially to see, because if that lot's not for sale, I don't understand. You're not going to develop it like this.
The question I would have is there enough of a consensus of council to have John expend time and money looking into this?
Well, I think John should, because even if we don't approve or decide we don't want to do this plan, I think we need an answer to that question. Because at some point, if it's not Mr. Robinson with this idea, and maybe Mr. Robinson with another idea, or maybe somebody else that comes forth, and I don't think we ever really answered that question the last time around. So I think we should get an answer.
Yeah, and I think I'll look back, Mr. Steiger. I think I did an opinion letter that I can recirculate, or at least put my eyes on to see if it still holds true. Depending on how we receive the property, as to what we can do to get out from under it. But if we wanted to, but again, this plan can't be really, in my opinion, the catalyst for you to put a request out to sell the for a bidder, because you can't bank on this is going to be there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, and that's why, once again, why we just wanted to start the discussion.
Yep.
So, thank you for your time this evening.
Yep. Next agenda item, purchase of Ford 150 pickup truck through Pennsylvania CoStar's Cooperative Purchasing Program.
So the 2024 budget includes an appropriation of $60,000 for the replacement of the pickup truck assigned to the Public Works Director. The current truck is a 2017 Dodge Ram. What is being proposed is to replace it with a Ford 150 crew cab. The purchase price as provided by the vendor under CoStars is $48,965. At your desk tonight, I have provided you additional information. The vendor that we would be buying this off of, Laurel Ford, has offered a trade-in value of $45,000 on the Dodge truck. On the reverse side is the Carfax's estimate of the base value based upon this specific VIN number, and they suggest that it's $44,880. So I think the $45,000 number is a good number. Then rather than go through the effort of trying to sell it outright, it's going to be my recommendation that we award a contract to Laurel Ford under CoStars with the trade-in of the existing truck for a price of $3,965.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Mr. Lauer. Payrolls and bills, Mr. Steiger.
Yes, I reviewed those prior to this evening's meeting, found them all to be in order, and move that they be approved.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Mr. Lauer. Correspondence. Letter to Peters Township from Teresa Matico, Range Resources pertaining.
Neither of those are.
Those are standard letters,
Yeah.
right? They're just
Right.
ones that just because.
Yeah, one's in Cecil Township and one's in North Germain.
Yeah, they're not in the township. They have to do that by law. They just send you a letter telling you what you're doing.
Okay.
I don't think we need to deal with that.
So,
Unless somebody wants to.
how about a letter to Peters Township from EQT Production Company pertaining?
thing.
Same
Yeah,
thing.
same thing. Yeah, one's in
Okay.
Cecil, one's.
Anything anyone wants to bring up in the minutes of the board? Nope. Moving on, miscellaneous, zoning hearing board report to council.
What are we going to do about it?
Well, I guess the question is whether you want to do anything. There are 2 hearings coming up.
I wanted to touch on that paper street issue again.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I talked after and I will apologize to the residents of Hackett, because I realized listening to what I said last week, it sort of sounded like I was putting down the residents of Hackett when I said that it was a hardship to live in Hackett. What I meant by that was the location of Hackett and its distance away from all of our amenities. That's why I said that. I apologize if I offended anybody in Hackett by saying that. I had a few people call me on that this past week, so I went back and watched the video, and it sounded entirely different than what I meant it to say. And so, my mom always said, if, you offend somebody, apologize. So to the residents of Hackett, I apologize. But back to the issue at hand, I spoke with a couple people on the zoning board, and I asked them, why did you approve the variance? And it was their understanding that the township has the authority to eliminate paper streets. So somebody needs to educate the zoning hearing board
I
on
spoke
this
to
issue.
Tom Lonich, and we've looked at the record. They did not extend the variance into the paper street. They extended the variance to the property line, to the setback. So they allowed them to build on their property up to the existing
A zero.
setback.
Yeah, a zero's property
So it's
line.
not into the paper street.
Well, I understand that, but still, if somebody opens up the street, right, now their house is now
Right there.
right on the curb.
No, I agree with that part of it. Now, with the use variance, it's a little tough, and I talked to Tom about if we filed an appeal, which we've been assigned to do, we could still perhaps reach a resolution, back it off a little bit if council wants to do that, if they're willing to entertain, some sort of negotiated resolution. But he obviously couldn't speak for the board.
All right, no, understood.
But I was under the impression it encroached somewhat into the paper alley, and it does not.
Yeah, I don't think I did.
Any other report?
So where does that leave us?
Yeah.
Well, council has voted to ask me to file the appeal, which I told Tom we were going to do. And so,
Okay.
once the appeal's filed, we'll get assigned, and probably Judge Gilman will give us a status conference, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, thank you.
And I think they've advised the applicant that the appeal's coming.
Okay, so this will just remain on the agenda until it's resolved. Next, St. Clair Hospital Huntington Bank update.
Oh, I just wanted to update council. The plan that we had shown you before, they have completed the engineering drawings on this. From the township standpoint, we think this solution works. In fact, if the hospital was in a position to issue the permanent easement as well as the cross-access agreement, we would issue the building permit tomorrow. What the hospital and Huntington would like to do is to fashion a settlement agreement that all 3 parties can sign. So we may well be another month out before that occurs.
I thought they were the ones that were in a hurry.
I thought so too, but
Okay. Roundabout sign?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to council about this. One of the things, we're coming up on an election cycle. And one of the things that in Peters Township, we always have lots of political signs in the right-of-way. The one thing that I would think that we do not want to have happen is to have any signs, whether they be political or otherwise, in the center of that roundabout. If you remember this area at the last presidential election, there were signs that were 4 by 8. They were illuminated. It was quite the sight. I don't think you want that inside that roundabout because I just don't think it'll be safe. So I've already removed, school signs and placed them to the side. I just think we shouldn't have anything in that circle itself. Mr. C, the individual who came in because he has the mirror up, is concerned about signs on the lower end of the road as it heads out towards the trail because it blocks his vision to be able to see out. So, this area down in here, his preference is that we not permit signs in this area, which I don't think is an unreasonable request given where his driveway is.
How do you propose you're going to eliminate that?
Okay, the same way we do always is we pick the signs up and bring them back here and people can pick their signs up and put them back out.
Should you post one sign, say no political signs?
Well, I'm afraid of that.
Except this one, right?
I was asking, I actually talked to manager over at Upper St. Clair because someone had mentioned that they don't have the problem we have. And he said that in their roundabout they don't allow anything, but he says the fact of the matter is they don't permit any signs inside of road right-of-way. So,
which I adamantly support.
And so all signs have to be at least 13 feet back off the road, which means they're on private property as opposed to the public right-of-ways. I'm not advocating that because I just think it'll be a nightmare, but in this particular case, I think we ought to restrict where the signs are going to be.
I have a question for you. Didn't the plan call for putting trees and bushes or something in that middle?
That area is landscape right now. That's the other reason why I wouldn't want to do anything. I wouldn't want to mess with it.
I assume it's low because it's not going to obstruct that guy's driveway?
Yeah, it's what's in there is low.
Okay. I didn't know. I couldn't tell from that picture. And I never go that way because I hate roundabouts. Well, not that I hate them in theory. I just don't like to drive around them.
Thank you.
For some reason, it freaks me out. So,
We know your weakness now.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah.
All right.
519 ought to drive you nuts then.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Lewis, I know you wanted to bring something up. In the miscellaneous.
For those that do recall, there is a program that the state police run. It's called Camp Cadet. And I don't think there are many people here in Peters that are aware of this opportunity. It's a week's opportunity at no cost to get your kid out of the house, to go spend time and get some discipline, as well as some real hands-on experiences associated with first responder activities. It's not limited to police activities. It's a week up at a Boy Scout camp up in Farmington. The applications are available, I believe, I have it posted up here until May 1st. The applications are online. You would be, if notified that you're being considered, you have to go for an interview with one of the state police people down in Washington. And you have to get some letters of recommendation for your student to be able to go. But I have known young people that have done this. They've done it 2 or 3 times. The age groups are, 12 to 14? And information I have available, if, could be available here on the Township if they want to call. The sign up here is listed down in the bottom of the one corner here for how you get your application process started.
The one thing we can do is we can advertise this through our own website and also do an email blast about this. I would point out that you have a couple of your officers who've actually helped staff this in the past.
Okay. Do you think the school district would send this out in their email?
I can ask.
I'll see her on Friday.
All right. Anything else under miscellaneous, Paul?
I do not have anything.
Dr. Chairman, I just wanted to say, with regard to the Princess Ball, I want to give Mr. Brooks all the credit for expanding the Princess Ball so that nobody was left out this year, opening up the whole gym, doubling the number of kids that could go. Was a wonderful event. You know, just wanted to say that because I had said for years that we should just open up the whole rec center, and not that I'm taking any credit for it because I'm not, obviously, but I'm just saying Mr. Brooks had a great idea in expanding that and allowing everyone who wanted to go to attend, as opposed to years past where we had kids that weren't able to attend because of the small size we took.
There were about 280 people there, and I think if Dave was here, what he would tell you that it was a joint effort of all the Park and Rec staff to be able to do that, as well as a small cadre of volunteers that volunteered for that.
It's actually a little bit scary to see how, like, 100 girls between the ages of 4 and 12 know the words to every freaking Taylor Swift. Scary. It really is.
Thanks, Frank.
Yo.
Any items for the next agenda?
Yeah, I had a couple things. First off, we need to schedule the dance team again since they took the national championship. Again, also, can we get a report on the deer call? I'm assuming that's finished.
It is done, and I will have them deliver a report.
Gary, what was the first thing you said?
Dance team,
dance
recognition for the national championship.
Oh, okay.
And then for the football team, were they getting a sign or were they not getting a sign? Like at the end, at one of the entrances?
We
No, right.
only have signs up for state championships.
Right, okay. I thought
Yeah.
that's what it was, but.
Otherwise, we'd run out of space, maybe.
We've
I
already
happened to
run out
see
of
one
space
the
for
other
state
day,
championships.
and I think it was a dance team one.
Yeah, we have the sign at Thomas Road.
Yeah.
That's their sign.
Yeah.
So they got room for what, 2 more well, this one and then 1 more after that, I think. Then that pole will be full.
Unless we make the sign small.
Or we put another pole there.
Any other items for next agenda?
We need to put the naming of the Loop Road on the agenda.
Actually, I was going to have I had a talk with Dave Brooks. I was going to get the Park and Rec Board to talk about that.
Okay.
To bring it back to you.
Great way.
Right way, I think right way is just.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.